any operation that has experienced repeat problems is likely not doing that kind of problem solving or not doing it very much. And so that's really like one of the most important, first skills that we want to teach is practical problem solving, something that everybody can engage in because everybody experiences problems in the moment. And that's the opportunity to do the best job of resolving it.
The other thing too, Cormac, that I think you was an underlying theme to in this, that learn by doing is you have to make intentional shifts. You have to force yourself to do things a little differently. And that's the hardest part. So at Roadmap, how will you help those that are sitting in that room actually apply this, like that method and some of the other methods? Like, how will you help them really grab hold of these concepts to be able to take back to their teams?
Yeah, so typically, we'll apply some teaching models that are particularly helpful in these situations. So, we're not just going to throw people into the deep end and be like, swim, I haven't told you how to do that, but, you're either going to sink or swim. So we try and avoid that type of situation because that's just a bad experience for people, right?
Yeah.
So, what we'll typically do is start small and start with something simple and
Hmm.
easy, something that we can quickly monitor and tell if people are catching on or not. And so, applying, these coaching methods, we can really dial into specific skills and initially create some simple simulations, say, that will help us develop people's capability. And so then what we're looking for is once we get to a certain level to take people up to the next level and add a little more complexity and then take them up to the next level and add a little more complexity. And the rationale is, if we just send people out to go apply some tools and make improvement, they may very quickly find some circumstances outside of their current knowledge, outside of their current capability, and just fail, right?
Yeah.
And so that's not helpful. But the more that we can build up those skills, and the more that we can um, create a fleshed out process that people have learned and practiced, the less that what they encounter is going to be outside of their norm. And so ideally, then they're armed with tools and skills that they can use circumstantially as needed. And it will still take practice to get good at it. But, we don't want people struggling just to make an observation of the process that's helpful or to use a particular tool that's helpful. We don't want them struggling with that. So we're going to teach them bit by bit in this workshop
Yeah.
and elevate them to a level where they can at least feel comfortable using the skills that they've learned and then attempt to experience that in the real world.
One of the things you mentioned too was this idea of practical problem solving. And
Mhm.
when you mentioned that to me before, I was like, well, isn't that what I'm doing all the time? Aren't all my problems just like practical problem solving? So what do you, if you mean to say practical problem solving?
Yeah, so essentially there's kind of like two ways that you could approach problem solving. One is to sort of take this idea of like, oh, we experience these problems all the time, and we're trying to efficiently use our time to target the most frequent things that happen. Okay, so that's one particular way. But another way is in daily operations, things happen in the moment.
Hmm.
And so practical problem solving is usually involved in how do I engage in the moment when something actually happens to help prevent that problem from ever happening again.
Hmm.
And so, in that way, it never becomes a reoccurrence. It never pops up on our radar, right? And isn't that ideal?
Yeah.
And so, practical problem solving is really centered on that skill is something happened right now here in front of me. What is the method that I'm going to use to help me solve that problem for good?
Hmm.
And so typically there's two components to it. One is I've got to put out the fire. I've got to do something immediately. And it's not necessarily a resolution to the issue, but it keeps me going. It keeps me operating. And that's super important. And a lot of people say negatively, like, oh, that's firefighting, right? But actually, firefighting is a good thing. We want the fires to get put out.
Right.
But the other side of that is that in the moment, that's the best time to figure out why we had a fire in the first place.
Yeah.
And so pursuing some of those like basic skills of like inquiry and observation and trying to drill down into what was the root of this problem and how can I tackle that so that I never experience this problem again. Any operation that has experienced repeat problems is likely not doing that kind of problem solving or not doing it very much. And so that's really like one of the most important, first skills that we want to teach is practical problem solving, something that everybody can engage in because everybody experiences problems in the moment. And that's the opportunity to do the best job of resolving it.
Cormac, take us next to one of the other methods that you'll be you're articulating and demonstrating and working through hands-on with our attendees, which is the concept of the PDCA. So give us what that is and how that applies to maybe some real life scenarios.
So PDCA is plan, do, check, and adjust. And sometimes it's has different words for those, but I would just stick with those: plan, do, check, adjust. And so the way that works is it's a cycle that loops back to itself. So um, what I want to do in my planning is to get a good understanding of what's going on, come up with some ideas that's going to help me eliminate the root causes of that issue, and then create some plan to implement my ideas, right? And so that's the start of it, okay? And so as I start with that, I'm going to try doing those things in my do. But if that's all I do, then I might get a good result. I might not get a good result, right? And if I just proceed like that, then things probably my performance goes up and down and up and down and up and down over time. So what I really need to do next is check that I'm getting the result that I needed from that specific countermeasure.
Hmm.
And so in that way, it becomes more of a scientific method, right? Is I'm studying, I created a plan, I did it, and then I'm studying the effect of that by checking it. And then that's my opportunity to make adjustments to my plan. And so then I go back through my plan. Maybe there's more understanding that I need to get, or maybe I need to approach my countermeasure in a slightly different way, or maybe I had the wrong understanding of the root cause. And so I readdress my plan, and then I go back and try something else. And so as I loop around this cycle, ultimately, uh, I'm looking to prevent that issue from ever happening again. And so once I get to that place, I can do it again somewhere else.